Hey, with Are You Okay Day coming up, I thought I'd put up this recording to help you navigate Are You Okay question, right? Because it's not so much about being able to ask the question when the person needs it or when you think that something might not be okay, but it's how to manage it once you've asked the question. And if they said, no, I'm not okay, what are you going to do then? What does that look like? So often we get paralyzed and we freak out because we think, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't know how to manage it, whatever it is that they're going to tell me. The most important thing for you to know is that when a person is not okay, the most important thing that they need is to be seen and to be heard. To know that whatever it is that's going on for them, they're not going through it on their own. Somebody else knows that it's happening. So there's three things that people need when they're not okay. The first one is to vent, just to get it out. They just want to be able to share it with someone, get it all out. Whatever the emotion is, just gets, sort of vented. There's no better word for it. That's the word. So just being able to listen is really, really key. The second thing that people need is validation and that sense of, comforting that, I see what's going on for you. I notice how it's impacting you. And it's going to be okay, right? Like that sense. And sometimes it's not going to be okay. But just being able to feel that sense that someone knows and understands what you're feeling is comforting. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips to deal with each one of these. And the third one is the finding the solution. So a person might also need a solution. We jump into providing solutions automatically, I think, because it's more about, right, let's get this over and done with because we can't deal with the emotion or the sensation of seeing somebody else that's not okay. So just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to solve it for the person. More often than not, in the majority of the situations, people just want to vent or just want to be heard and comforted. That's all they want. Sometimes they'll want a solution. And so, yes, you can work on that. But even when they do want a solution, you still need to first listen, then validate, and then start brainstorming for a solution. Okay. So it's important to get those two first ones really down pat. So what can you do then? If you ask a person, are you okay? And they say, no, actually, I'm not okay. Then you might, then immediately your first thing is, okay, listen, right? You might even want to ask them, hey, what do you need from me right now? Do you want to just vent? Do you want to be comforted? Do you want, to get distracted? Do you want me to help you find a solution? How can I help right now? And then the person will tell you, or they'll tell you they have no idea. Okay, no problem. Always revert to listening. You can't go wrong, right? So then you might just, a key thing, a key way to indicate to people that you are listening is to just lean forward. And notice how, as soon as I lean forward, you get that sense that I'm interested in what you're saying. And then if I tilt my head, then it's that sense of, you know what, like I've got my ear. I'm listening to what you have to say. It's all body language and we're wired to receive it. So it's a very simple thing that you have to do that can indicate that. And then you can say, well, tell me more. Tell me more about what's happening. So, or what's that about? Or how did that happen? Or any of those questions that can get the person to start talking about what's going on, right? So that's really important. The next step then is to validate whatever it is that they're feeling, right? So that sounds something like, whoa, that's like really intense. That sounds really hard. It sounds like you're really sad, or it sounds like you're really anxious. Whoa, you seem really mad about that. That makes sense, right? And so, an important thing here is that people will tell you a story about why they're mad or angry or sad. And that story might not make sense in your head, in your mind, as to why are you responding. Or we tend to want to get hung up in the story and what's happening. And what you want to do here is you want to get hung up in the idea that whatever it is that the story is, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or they're making it up in their heads or whatever it is, they're making it bigger, whatever it is that you think is going on for them in reality, the truth is that whatever it is that they're feeling is valid. So you can't go wrong validating the feeling. So you can say, wow, it sounds like this is really upsetting you. This is really getting you down. You can validate people's feelings also by saying something like, oh, I can imagine what that would feel like. And this is you saying, if I were in your place, I would feel like this. If you've had an experience that's similar, you can say, I can imagine what you're going through. I've had an experience that's similar. Don't share more. Just wait. Just say that and see what happens, right? You don't really have to go deep into sharing anything you don't want to, but you can acknowledge it in that way. But let's just say you've never experienced anything like whatever it is they're telling you. Then you could say that as well and still validate their feelings. You can say something like, I can't imagine what that would feel like, right? And then it's true. You don't know. You can't imagine it, right? So you either can imagine it or you can't imagine it. Either way, you're validating it. Either way, you're saying it sounds awful. I can't imagine what that would be like. It sounds difficult. I can imagine what that would be like. I've been through some stuff like that, but I can imagine how it might be impacting you. Might, because, and why do I say it that way? Like a hesitation, because I don't want to say I know exactly what you feel, because we never know exactly what another person feels. We can imagine what it would be like because we know how we would feel, or we know how we've felt in that situation, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. That's that validation part. So these two things, if you just do these two things, you'll be good to go. That's it. And you don't really have to talk too much about it. You just have to, sort of be comfortable with silence, be comfortable with saying, oh, wow, tell me more, and not say anything else. That sounds difficult. That sounds really hard. How are you coping with it? Questions, right? You're asking short questions and getting them to talk more about it. That's what you're doing. But you also don't want to get stuck completely and just talking and talking and talking about the same situation. You're starting to see this is not helpful. Sometimes people talk about it, they vent it, and they feel great. Sometimes they get the validation and they feel like, yeah, but and they themselves switch back into, okay, but I've got to get up and keep going, right? So it's important. They sat in with that emotion that they were feeling in the moment. The emotion passed, and now they feel better, and they can get up. And that's all they needed, right? Didn't really need a solution. Those things are vital. They're important, right? If a person can't find a solution, but they can find these two things, they'll be good. All right. So just remember that all the time. So if you want to move a person, like they've been stuck and they're like, just keep going, right? Or they said from the beginning when you asked them, yeah, help me find a solution because I'm at my wit's end. I don't know how to deal with this. Then you can move on to asking questions. Rather than offering what you think is the solution, you want to ask questions. You want to start with, what have you tried? Right? And then, what didn't work about it? They go, I tried doing this, but it didn't work. And okay, so what went wrong? Like how come it didn't work? Like what, right? And then you're listening more of the story, because the worst thing that you can do is start offering solutions that they've already tried and it doesn't work. So they're going to go back to feeling awful and remembering the fact that they haven't been able to solve this thing, right? So that's why you just don't jump into offering solutions. Okay. You just kind of jump into, okay, so what can we do, or what would you like to do? What would you like to be able to do? And get them to think about it. Just ask the question. You don't have to know the answer to that question. They probably won't know the answer to the question. One, because they might have not thought about it before, or two, because they're in an emotional state and the part of the brain that can think about that stuff is switched off when people are in an emotional state. So if they say, I don't know, they're not trying to be difficult. They genuinely might not know, or they might know but can't remember in the moment because they can't access that frontal lobe. Okay, so don't take it personal. Just kind of go, if a person says a lot, I don't know, then you can ask them, well, if you had to guess, right? And what you're doing there is you're inviting them to get out of emotional mode and try and see if they can connect with that frontal lobe. And just being patient and being calm in being able to just leave those spaces for the person to answer. If they do start to tell you things that have worked, that haven't worked in the past, you can ask something like, well, what has worked? Has there been anything that has worked? Right? And then that can give you a clue as to the type of solution that's more helpful for them, right? And then when you're kind of thinking, and maybe you're burning with this this solution that you think that will definitely help them, then you just want to ask another question. You're always asking, you're not saying, you're not instructing, you're always asking. You're saying something like, have you thought of this? Have you tried this? Whatever it is, the solution that you want to offer. Would you like some help with this? I wonder if this might help, right? That kind of, you're wondering, you're kind of asking whether it might help. And then that's a way to kind of help a person work with you to find a solution. Because the problem when a person is in an emotional state is that they're in a part of the brain that can't think with the frontal lobe, right? So they're just emotional, they're caught up in the emotion. So you want to invite them to think, to make that effort to think. If you're providing all the solutions, you will get shut down because they're in an emotional state and none of that makes sense. None of that is helpful. None of that is going to be good. So that's what becomes very frustrating when you're trying to offer people solutions. But more often than not, it's because we're offering solutions when that's not what the person needs in the moment. What the person needs is to be heard, which is really simple. You're just kind of going, uh-huh, you're leaning forward, you're tilting, you're kind of going, oh, wow, that sounds terrible. And then silence. Can't imagine that. And or you might ask questions. And so what did you do then? And so how did you solve it? Or what happened? Do you know what I mean? And you just keep asking short questions that keep them talking so they can get it out. And often just venting it will be good, right? And then validating. Don't forget that comfort that comes from validating. Whoa, that sounds awful. That sounds terrible. Those are your tips. I hope they work for you. And I'd love to hear in the comments whether you've tried some of these, whether you've tried something else that I haven't mentioned. I'm always keen to hear what other people do or say. And just let me know. Let me know if something has backfired and what has happened. And then we can troubleshoot like what you do in those situations. All right. Okay. So good luck with that. And just remember, keep yourself okay as you ask other people, are they okay?